On Power Talk this week, we focus on financial inclusion and serving those who've been underserved. Now, there have been many strides that have been made towards digital inclusion, particularly in the fintech space, but more work continues to be done in terms of bringing them all together in the various sectors. And that is why today on Power Talk, we're so glad to be speaking with Daniel Huber, who's the Vice President of Community Pass Market Development at Mastercard, to tell us about Community Pass, the work that it does in ensuring financial inclusion of the communities, not just in Kenya, but across sub-Saharan Africa. Daniel, thank you so much for making time for us on Power Talk.
Thanks, Yvonne. Great pleasure to be here today.
Thank you.
Yes.
So just quickly, let's just get this out of the way.
Sure.
We encounter Mastercard Foundation. Could you just quickly explain this? Because I'm sure you hear this being used interchangeably from time to time.
Exactly. Yeah. Contrary to popular perception, right? Mastercard, actually the corporate, is not a card company. We are a payment company, a technology company in the financial space, really. We digitize payments across multiple segments. We provide our services to individuals and businesses to be able to, have a seamless, safe buying experience. That's what we power. And we work with businesses, we work with governments, we work with merchants, as we call them. And we are a for-profit rolling out technology in this space to be able to just power transactions. On the other hand, Mastercard Foundation is known for its public good because they are a not-for-profit organization that is focused on creating jobs for young people. And they have an independent board, independent management running their own business. Okay. So that's the difference between the two of us.
All right, good. Now that we understand that and we've gotten that out of the way,
sure.
So let's talk about Mastercard's Community Pass initiative.
Yes.
Aims at promoting financial inclusion in Kenya and sub-Saharan Africa. What is this initiative and what does it do?
Yvonne, if you look at Africa today, a lot of transactions are happening, but they are in the dark. A lot of individuals, businesses are actually transacting, but financial institutions are not aware of those transactions. Now, Community Pass is really a shared digital infrastructure that tries to bring to bear all these transactions that are happening, that are not being seen, so that we can have a seamless way of transacting between individuals and businesses. So we are a shared infrastructure. Now, when I talk about a shared infrastructure, what do I exactly mean? At Community Pass, there are a couple of things we bring to individuals and businesses. The first thing we bring is a digital identity, that we're able to provide individuals with a credential that they can be able to use every single time they transact. That credential makes them known so that service providers, such as financial institutions, off-takers in agriculture, can be able to know who are they transacting with. That's the first thing we do from an infrastructure perspective. The second thing we offer is to build a digital profile. A digital profile basically is a track record of your transaction. So Yvonne, as a farmer, for example, as you're registered by your farmer cooperative and you're taking in your milk to the cooling center, you're buying in inputs, those records of transactions are being associated with your credential. That's what we call a digital profile attached to your credential. The third thing we do is we power then payments from a Community Pass perspective. And those payments we power is both online payments and offline payments, so that it's easier for you to be able to receive services and to be able to get paid for the goods that you're able to sell, for example, as a farmer. And remember, because Mastercard is a technology company globally, operating in over 210 countries, we bring therefore the power for you to get paid anywhere in the world in a safe and a secure manner. And the last thing we do from a Community Pass perspective is how do we crowd in the ecosystem actors. So for example, for last mile services, we are very particular in bringing in off-takers for the agriculture sector. We're able to bring in input providers in the agriculture sector. We're able to bring in last mile actors such as agents. So that basically, within a common infrastructure, you have multiple players enjoying the benefit of digitization.
Okay.
And that's what we do.
Let's talk about that credential and that digital profile. How does it then help the farmer and many of those, what would you say that journey has been like in Kenya? So you've got this digital profile, you've got these credentials. What do you do with that?
Good, and fundamental question indeed for us. We have seen progress for us. And if you look at Sub-Saharan Africa, let me start there. We have about 3 million users on the community pass network today. In Kenya specifically, we've touched about 1 million users today. Majority of those users are actually farmers. They are farmers in the coffee sector, in the dairy value chain, in the cotton value chain, in the potato value chain. And what we've done with them is that credential, first of all, has allowed them to be able to participate actively into the ecosystem. Now, for example, we have an opportunity to be able to connect them to input providers, because input providers for seed, fertilizer, and pesticide now can be able to have visibility of the farmer and what they're looking out for in terms of their orders. Now, because of the economies of scale, they can then be able to aggregate their orders within the cooperative and be able to sell it out. The second thing we've seen as a critical element is basically digitizing their record of sales. And once they have digitized their records of sale, for example, in the coffee sector, we are now able to showcase what's available by the farmers at FarmGate to off-takers, not just here in the country, externally, so that roasters in Amsterdam, in Antwerp, for example, can know what coffee is available today in Kirinyaga County, for example. That is that visibility that we've given to our farmers. And how we're going next now is to then look at how do we enhance credit provisioning. One of the things we've learned very critically is the fact that a majority of our farmers are still not receiving adequate credit. In fact, out of every 100 farmers who apply for credit today, do you know only 3 actually qualify to be able to receive credit? So if you're talking about millions of farmers, you're talking about close to 900,000 of these farmers not actually accessing credit. And the biggest
Community
challenge
Pass gives them the opportunity to access
be able to
credit?
do that. And how do we do that?
Yeah.
Because we now have associated data about the farmer, what they're transacting, what they're keeping, or for example, what they're selling, that data point, part of their profile, can now be viewed differently by financial institution to be able to judge them from a creditworthiness perspective. An important element that we'll be launching next year is really green lending. Partnering with a local financial institution, we want to focus especially on what we're calling productive assets. 3 things to be specific. One is solar lantern. Yvonne, we want to make sure that our mothers who are dairy farmers in Ol Kalou, for example, as they wake up at 4 a.m. to milk their cow, that they can be able to do it safely because it's lit. Right? And they can be able to get credit to be able to get those solar lanterns because of the Community Pass digital profile they hold. The second thing we want to do is to focus on solar irrigation pumps so that potato farmers, again, will not depend on 2 cycles of their crop, but can be able to farm across the year so they can be able to earn more. And the last thing we want to do is for the dairy farmer like Kosgei in Eldoret, for example, who takes their milk at 6 in the morning to their cooperative, and their cooperative has to aggregate all that milk and then send it to the processor at noon, to be able to have a solar cooling plant so that they can be able to keep the quality of that milk. All this data, all these things we're doing are being associated with the farmers and their cooperatives. And that then opens the opportunity for the financial institution to look at them differently.
All right.
Yes.
Let's talk about, data protection and security and privacy of the farmers' data. So what measures have you put in place to protect this? Because, the risks exist in the digital space.
Very correct. Data security, data privacy, and data protection are key tenets of how Mastercard designs and builds and rolls out application. Community Pass is not different. And what you've done to be able to enforce that is to ensure, for example, in the contracting framework we have with our various stakeholders, both customers and other actors, it will enforce exactly the rules of data protection into our agreements. The second thing we're doing is building a lot of capacity for people to be aware of what it means to hold data. It is important for individuals today, the farmer today, Isaac in Mwea today, to know that the data belongs to them and that they have a right over their data and can be able to give consent to whoever they want to for purposes of using that data. So a lot of capacity building work is going through, looking at the rules, against, as I said, and building that as part of the network that we are rolling out in the country. All
right, let's look back a little bit to some of the key lessons that you feel you have learned in terms of providing digital solutions for agricultural development in this region and in Kenya. With all the work that you've done, the examples you've given us of the farmers, what have been some of the key lessons you've learned and how you're going to apply them forward?
A number of lessons. we need to meet the farmers where they are. Digitization is not an academic exercise, right? And what we may consider simplistic is actually value adding. One of the points I'll give you is an example is we realized that what farmers basically require is a very simple way in which their records can be kept. Let's not complicate the matter.
Yeah.
Understanding that simplicity and breaking down technology and digitization to meet their needs is critical. So you need to listen to these farmers and really be associated with their way of life. That's number one. Number two, partnership is critical. That you cannot do this alone. That it takes all of us in the ecosystem to be able to transform the sector. That digitization is not a single man's job. That there are different players across the chain who must be mobilized, from the cooperatives to the local agents to the government to the private sector. So partnership is extremely key. And the last lesson we've learned is the importance of investing for last mile. That it is important that the digitization we roll out work for last mile from an offline perspective. Be able to take care of the need to really be independent, but also interdependent across the various actors. So those are the lessons we're learning, and we're actually rolling them out based on those lessons that we've learned.
Yeah, and what does the rollout look like? What does the future look like? What are the goals and aspirations? Where does this go? How much further do you want to expand it?
Yeah, so in Kenya, for example, we are at 1 million today. Our goal in the next 2 to 3 years is to grow the user base of Community Pass to 5 million. Across sub-Saharan Africa, we have a goal actually by 2027 to reach 15 million users on the Community Pass platform today, with close to thousands of businesses that we want to support. And we're not just doing that for Africa. We are rolling this out also in India, and very specifically, globally, we'd like to get to 30 million users by 2027. That's our ambition. And for us, it's not just number of users getting on board. I think for us, if you can be able to unlock opportunity for our users so that they can access better financial services, we can be able to move the needle from single-digit access to double-digit access of financial services. They can be able to access better markets so they have a higher value, because we are seeing through digitization between 25 to 50% in terms of extra income that a farmer can earn because of digital visibility. If we're able to do these things rightly, we can then be able to really achieve our goals and do it in a commercially sustainable way.
Indeed.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that. Looking forward to what that looks like. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Daniel Hoover, who's the Vice President, Community Pass Market Development for Sub-Saharan Africa at Mastercard. That's Power Talk this week.